Hi friends, Gardener Allie here in the Haynes garden. Today, I'm getting the garden ready for winter. It's still fall, but it's getting colder, and there's some things we need to do to make sure the garden is ready for winter. So come along with me. We're gonna look for changes in the garden today, changes that are happening with the changing season, and we're also gonna do some jobs to get the garden ready for winter. This video is from a few weeks ago. This is what our tomatoes looked like before it got really cold. What do you think happened to them in the snow? And this is what the tomatoes look like now. What do you think happened? How do the tomatoes look different? Why do you think they look different? This is our sunflower plant. Do you remember what it looked like a few weeks ago? Let's take a look. This is what our sunflower looked like a few weeks ago, before it got cold. What colors do you notice? How does the sunflower look different now? One job we're going to do today is we're going to plant this. Do you know what this is? It might be something you've used in your kitchen before. If you said garlic, you're right. This is garlic, and fall is the time of year when we plant garlic. So how do you think we plant this? Do we put this whole thing in the ground? Let's look at it a little more closely. I pulled apart that head of garlic, or we also call it a bulb, the whole bulb, and I got these individual cloves. So now do you have an idea about how we might plant garlic? Each clove is like a seed. So we plant one clove and eventually it will grow into a whole head of garlic. This part of the garden, where the tomatoes are, we're going to plant garlic. In order to do that, I have to get the bed ready. So first I'm going to pull out the tomatoes. I'll grab the tomato by the base and pull it out. I'm going to shake off all the soil so that I can leave as much soil as possible in our garden bed. There are the roots. Now that I've cleared out all the dead tomatoes, we're ready to plant our garlic. I dug some holes in the bed so we could plant our garlic. Here's all the garlic that we're going to plant. Do you have any idea about which way we should plant the garlic? Let's look at it closely. When we put the garlic in the hole, do you think I put it in this way? Or do you think I put it in this way? Might be a little hard to tell on the video, but we always want to put the garlic in with the pointy side up and the side that is a little bit flat, and you might see some roots on the bottom. That side goes on the bottom. So we always want to plant the pointy side up. I found a worm. Now I'm going to cover up the garlic. You might have noticed that I only planted garlic in half of the garden bed. I wanted to save some space for something else. So you might be wondering what I'm going to plant there. Let's go take a look. I have a bag of seeds here, and I'm going to plant those seeds next to the garlic. Let's take a look in the bag. Here are all the seeds that I'm going to plant. These seeds are called winter rye. Rye is a grain. You may have even eaten it before. Sometimes we have rye bread, or we have cereal that has rye in it. But we're growing it in the garden not to eat, but to help protect our soil. The rye will grow like a grass, and it will help protect our soil over the winter. So let's go plant some. To plant the rye, I'm just going to scatter it over the garden bed. Watch my hand. We want to plant a lot of rye here so it grows really thick. Imagine a grassy field. We want the rye to look like that. Here's another view of the rye up close. Each one is a little... Now that I've spread out the rye, I need to cover it up like I did with the garlic. Because the seeds are much smaller, I don't need to cover them really deep. So I'm just going to carefully rake them in. I'm going to use this small handheld rake, and I'm going to use it to go back and forth across the seeds. You can see that this gets the seeds mostly covered by the soil. Now that the garlic and the winter rye is planted, there's one more step. You might be thinking, we have to water them. And you are right, but because these seeds will be in the ground all winter, we're just going to let the rain and the snow water them. The last thing we have to do is we have to make sure that the garlic and the rye will stay warm for the winter. So we're going to put some straw on top, like a blanket. So I have some straw here. It looks like this. You might also call it hay. And I'm gently going to spread it across the whole garden bed. This will keep our winter rye and our garlic warm for the winter. Like how we put on big jackets and hats and gloves in the winter, this is like protection for the garlic and the rye so it doesn't get too cold. We're also going to be planting some other bulbs today. They kind of look like garlic, but it's not garlic. Do you have any idea what these are? You also might have guessed an onion. They look a lot like onions, but they're not onions. These bulbs will grow into something that we don't eat. Any guesses? If you said a flower bulb, you're right. These bulbs will grow into different colored flowers and different types of flowers. Right here we have tulips and we also have daffodils. This is where I'm going to plant some of the flower bulbs. I dug out some of the soil and now I'm going to place the bulbs in the bed. Like the garlic, we want the pointy part up and the flat part with the roots going down. So I'm going to place them in, and I'll do a little design. I'm going to place them in a circle. These will be a yellow flower called a daffodil. Have you ever seen a daffodil before? Now that I put my daffodils in, and they're all pointing up, I'm going to make sure that they all get covered. I'm going to add some extra soil on top. I planted flower bulbs in these 3 planters here. I planted yellow daffodils, multicolored tulips, and pink daisies. Here's a look at what some of the flowers will look like. I can't wait till they come up in the spring.